Already against two of the biggest newspaper groups, Harry was probably confident taking on the publishers of the Daily Mail.
What happens when a decades-old Hollywood alliance combusts into absolute, unadulterated chaos? Picture this: millions of dollars on the line, a catastrophic courtroom bloodbath in London, and a legendary music icon reportedly drawing a massive, unmovable line in the sand against none other than Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. For years, Sir Elton John stood as an immovable pillar of strength for the Duke of Sussex, defending him from the tabloids, offering a shoulder to cry on, and even acting as a surrogate father figure. But rumor has it that the patience has officially run dry, and the breaking point has finally arrived. Could a brutal financial refusal completely shatter one of the most famous friendships in modern history? Or is this just the explosive climax of a high-stakes soap opera we never saw coming? Fasten your seatbelts, because what is supposedly going on behind closed doors is wilder than anything you could ever imagine. And we are about to break down every single shocking detail right now. Before the ink had even dried on the disastrous multi-million-pound court defeat in London, the whispers coming out of high society circles and exclusive VIP lounges were already turning into a deafening roar. Picture the scene in a dimly lit, ultra-exclusive Mayfair private members club where billionaires sip vintage champagne and pretend they care about the environment while secretly trading gossip that could topple governments. That is precisely where the word first dropped about what can only be described as a full-scale, unvarnished royal detonation. For years, the narrative peddled by the Sussex PR machine was that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle possessed an unshakable, bulletproof inner circle of fiercely loyal A-list allies who would march into the gates of hell for them. At the absolute pinnacle of that supposed fortress of unwavering loyalty sat none other than Sir Elton John. We are talking about a man whose musical legacy spans generations, a global icon with a net worth that could fund a small nation, and someone who had allegedly adopted Harry almost like a surrogate son in the devastating wake of Princess Diana's tragic passing. But as any seasoned royal watcher or cynical entertainment junkie will tell you, when the Hollywood facade starts to crack, it does not just fracture. It explodes into a million razor-sharp pieces that slice up everyone standing too close to the blast zone. To understand just how catastrophic this alleged falling out really is, you have to look at the sheer weight of history that is currently being tossed into the incinerator. This was never just a casual fair-weather celebrity acquaintance built on party invites in Montecito or awkward red carpet run-ins at movie premieres. This alliance was forged in the deepest fires of British royal trauma. When a young Prince Harry was left utterly untethered and spiraling after losing his mother, Elton was reportedly right there in the background, offering sanctuary, fatherly guidance, and a reminder that the world outside the suffocating palace walls wasn't entirely hostile. Over the decades, that bond supposedly evolved into an unbreakable emotional safety net. When Harry and Meghan decided to detonate their working royal status, pack their bags, and flee across the Atlantic to build a brand of high-gloss victimhood in California, Elton was one of the very first high-profile heavyweights to step directly into the firing line to defend them. He publicly slammed the British press, lent his private jet for high-profile eco-friendly getaways that raised eyebrows across the globe, and stood shoulder to shoulder with the Duke in a high-stakes, multi-claimant privacy crusade against the publishers of the Daily Mail. Yet, as the old adage goes, familiarity breeds contempt, and financial desperation breeds absolute warfare. Rumors have been swirling like a Category 5 hurricane that the breaking point did not happen over a polite cup of tea or a minor disagreement about dinner plans. It supposedly went down during a high-tension, closed-door financial exchange that left legendary pop royalty staring down the barrel of a multi-million-dollar nightmare entirely of Harry's making. According to the explosive insider whispers leaking out of London's legal and entertainment corridors, Harry allegedly reached out to Elton with yet another urgent, high-pressure request for financial assistance. But this time, the ask wasn't for a charitable cause or a casual favor. It was supposedly tied directly to the gaping multi-million-pound funding black hole surrounding the upcoming Invictus Games in Birmingham, coupled with the crushing aftermath of a legal strategy that had completely imploded. Imagine the sheer audacity of walking up to a man who is already bleeding cash from a court battle you dragged him into, and asking him to open his checkbook one more time. That is the jaw-dropping scenario sources claim played out behind the scenes. For months, the mainstream media tried to paint a picture of harmonious camaraderie, but the reality on the ground was allegedly a pressure cooker ready to blow its lid off the hinges. Elton, who has spent decades navigating the treacherous waters of fame, fortune, and fair-weather friends, reportedly looked at the mounting liabilities, the endless stream of financial demands, and the sheer exhausting drama emanating from the Montecito estate, and decided he had officially reached the absolute end of his rope. The turning point, as the narrative goes, was not merely a polite no. It was allegedly delivered with the kind of ice-cold, brutal precision that only a seasoned veteran of the entertainment industry can muster. The phrase that has reportedly been bouncing around high society circles is as blunt as a sledgehammer to a glass window. "I am not an ATM." Think about the sheer psychological weight of that statement coming from a man who spent nearly 30 years acting as a protective, fatherly pillar for a motherless prince. It signals a complete and utter exhaustion with being treated as a perpetual financial safety net for a couple whose lifestyle choices and relentless crusade against the establishment continually outpace their actual bank accounts. When you peel back the layers of Hollywood PR spin, the optics of this alleged fallout are nothing short of devastating for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. For an enterprise that relies so heavily on projecting an image of unstoppable global influence, magnetic leadership, and deep-pocketed alliances, losing a heavyweight champion like Elton John is not just a minor PR hiccup. It is a catastrophic structural failure. It lays bare the uncomfortable truth that even the most enduring, deeply rooted relationships eventually buckle under the crushing weight of endless demands, high-stakes legal gambles, and what critics have long described as an insatiable appetite for controversy and cash. And as the whispers grow louder and the details become increasingly specific, the burning question on everyone's lips isn't whether the friendship can be salvaged, but rather who else in Harry and Meghan's inner circle is quietly preparing to cut the cord before the next financial or reputational explosion takes them down right along with it. To fully grasp why this alleged financial breaking point shook the foundations of high society, you have to drag the entire catastrophe back to the courtroom disaster that started this financial bleeding in the first place. This was never just a casual disagreement over tabloid headlines or a petty spat between grumpy billionaires sipping espresso in a VIP lounge. This was a colossal, high-stakes privacy crusade launched against the publishers of the Daily Mail, a legal behemoth that Harry pursued with the relentless determination of a knight charging at a concrete windmill. And who did he drag right down into the mud and muck of this multi-year legal trench warfare right alongside him? None other than Sir Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley, Sadie Frost, and a rotating cast of high-profile names whose reputations and bank accounts were suddenly tied directly to the Duke's personal vendetta against the British press. Picture the sheer tension inside the courtroom when the final judgment was handed down by the High Court in London, because the defeat was not just a narrow loss on a technicality, it was an absolute, unmitigated legal bloodbath. The judge didn't just dismiss their claims. The court came down with the legal equivalent of a tactical nuclear strike, ruling that the claimant's litigation conduct was unreasonable to a high degree. When the dust finally settled, the financial reality of losing a lawsuit of this magnitude hit the participants like a freight train loaded with lead weights. We are talking about an initial interim order requiring Harry, Elton, and their co-claimants to fork over a staggering £9.5 million just toward the publisher's preliminary legal costs, with total defense bills rumored to be hurtling toward a jaw-dropping £34 million. Their legal insurance policies, which were supposed to act as an impenetrable financial shield, capped out far short of the astronomical final tally, leaving the famous claimants staring down the terrifying prospect of being left holding the bag for a multi-million-pound debt mountain. Now imagine being Elton John. You are a legendary music icon who has spent decades building a pristine global brand, sitting on a massive fortune, and enjoying your well-earned golden years of touring and philanthropy. You agreed to stand shoulder to shoulder with the son of your dear, departed friend Princess Diana out of pure loyalty and a sense of protective obligation. You put your name on the legal documents, you let your reputation become collateral damage in a bitter cross-border media war. And you trusted that the legal team knew what they were doing. Then the case crashes and burns in spectacular fashion, leaving you facing an eye-watering multi-million-pound bill that you never actually needed to incur in the first place. To make a bitter pill even more impossible to swallow, how did Prince Harry allegedly react to the catastrophic defeat? Did he quietly accept the court's detailed findings, fold his tent, and look for a way to mitigate the damage? Absolutely not. Reports indicate that Harry immediately went on the offensive, publicly blasting the judge's meticulous decision as a total whitewash and launching into yet another fiery tirade against the judicial system that had just handed him a historic defeat. For a seasoned industry veteran like Elton, watching a co-claimant throw public tantrums and attack the courts after losing a case is the ultimate nightmare scenario. It drags everyone else deeper into the controversy, turning a private legal miscalculation into an endless, rolling public relations disaster. Elton wasn't just some casual spectator watching the legal carnage unfold from a comfortable distance in California. His own hard-earned cash and personal dignity were directly on the line, dangling over an active volcano of escalating legal debt. Every time Harry opened his mouth to lambaste the establishment or drum Elton's own financial exposure, it was a masterclass in how not to handle a catastrophic legal defeat, and it reportedly left the music legend grinding his teeth in pure, unadulterated frustration behind closed doors. Yet, as the old saying goes, when it rains, it pours, and in the world of Montecito high rollers, a financial squall is almost always immediately followed by a Category 5 hurricane of fresh demands. Just as the ink was drying on the devastating legal bills and the echoes of Harry's public tirades were still ringing through the corridors of the British media, another massive financial crisis was looming large on the horizon. The Invictus Games, Harry's crown jewel project meant to showcase his philanthropic leadership on the global stage, was reportedly facing a gaping multi-million-pound funding deficit for its upcoming event in Birmingham. The pressure was mounting from all sides. Sponsors were tightening their purse strings in the wake of endless negative publicity, and the organization desperately needed a massive cash infusion to keep the wheels from falling off the entire operation entirely. So what does a desperate prince do when he is staring down a catastrophic legal debt on one side and a massive philanthropic funding black hole on the other? If the rumors swirling through London's elite circles are even half true, he apparently dials up the one man who had always been there to bail him out of tight spots. According to insider whispers that leaked out like a sieve from high society dinner parties, Harry allegedly reached out to Elton John once again, this time not to discuss legal strategy or reminisce about the old days, but to solicit more financial assistance for the struggling Invictus Games. Just wrap your head around the sheer psychological audacity of that move for a single solitary second. You drag a legendary musician into a failed multi-million-pound lawsuit, watch him get saddled with a terrifying legal bill because of your stubborn crusade, listen to your own co-claimant panic over the fallout, and then before the dust has even settled, you turn right back around and ask him to open his checkbook yet again to fund your pet project. It is the kind of breathtaking lack of self-awareness that leaves ordinary people completely speechless and drives high-powered executives straight to the edge of a nervous breakdown. For years, the narrative dictated that Elton was an inexhaustible well of generosity, a bottomless pit of cash and emotional support who would gladly write a massive check whenever the Montecito estate needed a financial band-aid. But every well eventually runs dry, and every infinite source of patience eventually hits a hard, immovable concrete wall. Sources claim that when this latest request landed on Elton's desk, it wasn't met with a polite refusal or a gentle excuse about scheduling conflicts. It was reportedly met with an explosive line-drawing reality check that echoed through the exclusive enclaves of British society like a thunderclap. The phrase that allegedly came out of Elton's camp, blunt, unfiltered, and utterly devastating, was that he was not an ATM. Think about the sheer emotional violence of that declaration. Coming from a man who famously played a heartbreaking, tear-jerking rendition of Candle in the Wind at Princess Diana's funeral, a man who watched Harry grow up from a grieving little boy into a rebellious royal, being reduced to a glorified cash machine was apparently the ultimate insult. It wasn't just a rejection of a financial proposal. It was a comprehensive, definitive indictment of how the dynamic between them had deteriorated over the years. It signaled that the decades-long bond, forged in the tragic fires of royal trauma, had finally bucked and shattered under the crushing weight of endless demands, financial recklessness, and a total disregard for the boundaries of true friendship. The fallout from this alleged refusal immediately sent shockwaves through the entire celebrity ecosystem. When a heavyweight champion like Elton John decides to cut off the money tap and draw a hard line in the sand, the shockwaves don't just stay in London. They ripple all the way across the Atlantic to the sun-drenched mansions of California, landing squarely on the doorstep of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. For a brand that thrives on projecting an image of untouchable glamour, global influence, and an inner circle brimming with billionaire benefactors, Losing Elton John is not just a minor scheduling inconvenience. It is a catastrophic structural failure that exposes the fragile, transactional nature of their high society alliances. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that even the deepest, most historic loyalties have an absolute expiration date when they are pushed past the breaking point by endless crises, mounting legal judgments, and an insatiable appetite for controversy and cash. And as the whispers continue to multiply behind closed doors, the burning question on everyone's lips is no longer whether Elton will forgive and forget, but rather who else in Harry and Meghan's dwindling Rolodex is quietly drafting their own exit strategy before the next financial explosion takes them down too. And that brings us straight to the ultimate catastrophic climax of this high society saga, where the real collateral damage of this alleged falling out is finally dragged out into the harsh, unforgiving light of day. When you strip away the polished PR statements, the glossy magazine spreads, and the endless stream of carefully curated podcasts and docuseries, what you are left with is a very stark, very uncomfortable reality about the true cost of relentless controversy. For an enterprise that has built its entire post-royal identity on the romanticized narrative of heroic struggle against a cold, unyielding establishment, the loss of an ally like Sir Elton John is nothing short of a seismic shockwave. This was never just about a failed legal bill, or a rejected charitable donation request for a pet project in Birmingham. This was about the inevitable moment where the bill for years of high-stakes grandstanding finally comes due, and the people who were once willing to stand in the line of fire decide that the collateral damage has simply become too high to bear. Think about the psychological and strategic vacuum that is left behind when a foundational pillar of your support system abruptly vanishes overnight. For nearly 3 decades, Elton John occupied a very specific, irreplaceable niche in Prince Harry's universe. He was the living, breathing link to an idealized past, a direct bridge to the mother who was stolen away too soon, and a heavy-hitting heavyweight champion who could command the attention of global elites with a single phone call. When Harry and Meghan decided to detonate their royal ties and plunge headfirst into the hyper-competitive, monetization-heavy waters of American celebrity culture, having a musical titan like Elton standing firmly in their corner gave them a massive shield of institutional credibility. It whispered to the world that despite what the palace courtiers or the British tabloids might say, true royalty still recognized their worth. But when that shield is deliberately dropped, when the checkbook is slammed shut, and the legendary singer essentially tells you that you are entirely on your own, the illusion of invincibility shatters into a million jagged pieces. To make matters infinitely worse, this alleged rupture does not happen in a vacuum. It arrives wrapped in a toxic package of multiple compounding crises that would test the structural integrity of even the most stable corporate empire. On one side, you have the staggering multi-million-pound legal debt hanging over Harry's head like a guillotine blade, a direct consequence of a privacy crusade that went catastrophically sideways in a London courtroom. On the other side, you have the mounting pressure surrounding the Invictus Games, an initiative that relies heavily on corporate sponsorship and wealthy philanthropic donors who are increasingly skittish about attaching their names to endless public drama and legal friction. And hovering over all of this is the relentless scrutiny of public opinion, where every misstep, every defensive outburst, and every failed venture is dissected by millions of hypercritical eyes across social media and digital commentary channels. When you add a furious, deeply frustrated Elton John to that already volatile mix, you transition from a manageable PR crisis straight into a full-blown existential panic. The whispers emanating from high society dinner parties and exclusive VIP lounges suggest that the ripple effects of this alleged fallout are already beginning to destabilize other relationships within the Sussex inner circle. Hollywood elite are famously risk-averse. They love nothing more than a good rebellion when it is trendy and profitable. But the moment a high-profile association starts turning into a financial liability or a reputational minefield, they learn how to vanish faster than a magician performing a stage trick. If a man who acted as a surrogate father figure for 30 years can reach his absolute breaking point and draw a hard, unmovable boundary, what message does that send to every other celebrity, investor, and producer currently orbiting the Montecito estate? It sends a deafening, unmistakable signal that the safety net has officially been pulled away, and anyone still standing too close to the blast zone is taking an enormous, uncalculated gamble with their own brand. Consider the plight of Meghan Markle in the middle of this high-stakes geopolitical drama. because reports have long suggested that she was never entirely on board with the aggressive legal strategies that brought them to this precipice in the first place. Marrying into royal chaos is one thing, but watching your household budget, your public reputation, and your global business ambitions get dragged down by multi-million-pound legal judgments and alienated billionaires is an entirely different level of nightmare. The irony is almost too delicious for tabloid writers to fathom. The very legal crusade that Harry launched to supposedly protect his family's privacy and secure their financial independence ended up backfiring so spectacularly that it allegedly severed their ties with one of their wealthiest and most loyal benefactors. It is a masterclass in self-sabotage that plays out like a tragicomic Hollywood screenplay, complete with massive financial stakes, bruised egos, and a soundtrack of elite doors slamming shut across the globe. So where does this leave the Duke and Duchess of Sussex as they stare down the barrel of an increasingly hostile and expensive future? The financial fallout from the Daily Mail privacy defeat will eventually have to be reckoned with, whether through grueling payment plans, desperate fundraising efforts, or liquidating assets to cover the crushing legal bills. The Invictus Games will undoubtedly push forward, but the burden of securing funding without the backing of traditional mega donors who might be following Elton's lead will make every future event an uphill battle against mounting cynicism. And the personal relationship between Harry and the man who once sang a heartbreaking tribute to his mother at Westminster Abbey? That may very well be past the point of no return. You can apologize for a misunderstanding, you can negotiate a business dispute, and you can recover from a bad financial investment, but it is nearly impossible to unring a bell as loud and brutal as being told point-blank that an old friend refuses to act as your personal bank account. As this sensational saga continues to unfold behind the locked gates of California mansions and within the hushed corridors of London law firms, one thing remains crystal clear. The honeymoon phase of post-royal independence is officially over, replaced by the cold, harsh reality of financial accountability and shrinking circles of loyalty. The drama is far from finished, the leaks are only going to get more specific, and the shockwaves of this alleged multi-million-dollar fallout will undoubtedly reverberate through the entertainment world for months to come. Fasten your seatbelts, keep your popcorn ready and stay tuned, because when the Hollywood facade finally starts to peel away, the truth is always far stranger, wilder, and much more brutal than anything you could ever script yourself. What happens when the ultimate safety net is finally pulled away, and the biggest names in Hollywood realize they can no longer ride the coattails of a sinking ship? Is this brutal financial showdown the final nail in the coffin for Harry and Meghan's inner circle? Or are we just watching the explosive opening act of an even bigger disaster, waiting to unfold behind the locked gates of Montecito? We want to hear your unfiltered thoughts on this absolute royal train wreck. Do you think Elton John was completely justified in drawing that hard line? Or was he being way too harsh on a man who once looked up to him like a father? Drop your fiery opinions in the comments below right now, and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, so you never miss out on the wildest, most jaw-dropping royal exposes on the